a girlfriend who accepts me as who I am. I've come to love her even more. I strongly promised myself to make her happy, no matter what. My name's Jake, 28 years old. Born to kind-hearted parents, I had an average school life, and now I'm a regular office worker. The company I work for has a wonderful working condition. They pay for overtime work, give regular breaks, and have solid benefits. You might think I have no worries, but even I have some issues. It's about my body shape. I have a naturally large frame. Overweight, well actually, I'm also tall and have a big build, so I'm more like a cuddly bear. Being big isn't a problem. The issue is the gap between my appearance and my personality. Embarrassingly, I'm timid. I get scared easily and can be jumpy. Absolutely no horror movies or roller coasters for me. And while people think I must love meat and eat a lot, beef doesn't sit well with me. I like rice just as much as average guy. Sweets, like cake and chocolate, are my favorite. I can't even drink black coffee. In our modern day, people say we all have different values, but people judge based on appearance anyway. My ex once dumped me, saying she thought I'd be more manly. That was back in college. I was never good with women, and being dumped like that left a huge scar. I ended up growing distant from women. As a result, I'm still single at 28. I've been set up on dates by coworkers and friends quite a few times. But conversations never really took off, and nothing progressed. I hadn't found a woman I truly felt connected with since college, so I thought I was okay with that. But now, there's a woman I've been interested in. At my workplace, I was assigned to a newly established department 6 months ago. The department, made up of relatively younger folks within the company, was still small and had yet to make any achievements. But everyone is full of enthusiasm to make results and expand this new department, and I feel very fulfilled doing my part. The woman I have a crush on is Jessica, who became the boss in this new department. Despite being 34, she was given a significant role in this new setup, a real successful career-driven woman. Not only is she competent at her job, but she's also gorgeous, with an outstanding figure. She's even been featured in the company newsletter, making her a bit of a celebrity around the office. But what makes her truly wonderful isn't her looks or skills, but her social and friendly personality. In a department dominated by men, Jessica always communicates proactively, which is improving the office teamwork. For some reason, she seems to pay special attention to me. "Jake, I've got a snack for you again today. Here you go." She always gives me snacks. I often get invited to lunch too. Strangely, Jessica seems to only invite me to lunch. "Hey, are you, by any chance, dating Jessica?" I've been asked this by my colleagues more times than I can count. Once, I asked her, "Why do you always invite me for lunch? I'm not the best at making conversation, and wouldn't you have more fun with others?" "Oh, are you feeling pressured? It's hard to decline an invite from a boss, right? I'm so sorry," she quickly said, and I hastily denied. "No, that's not it. I mean, I'm grateful, but I always wonder why you care about someone like me. I'm not particularly skilled at work, and there are great-looking seniors and peers around, so I wonder why you always reach out to me." Hearing my lack of confidence, Jessica softly smiled and replied, "It's not just about who gets the best results at work. We're a team, Jake. You are always there supporting everyone. That's why I and everyone else feel comfortable working with you. I know other good things about you. Be confident." Honestly, hearing that from someone I had feelings for made me incredibly happy. But I didn't have any intentions of confessing my feelings to Jessica. To me, she seemed like someone who was out of my league. Maybe she cares about me because the needy ones are the cutest, or something like that. Just being around her Seeing her and talking to her was enough to satisfy me. That's what I thought. However, soon there was an event that changed my perspective. One time, I had to go on a business trip out of state with Jessica. The overnight trip, which we were taking by train, was initially planned for Jessica and another senior colleague. But the day before, that colleague fell sick. There was talk of Jessica going alone, but last minute, they decided to let me accompany her for experience. Being my first business trip in the new department, and especially with Jessica, I was pretty nervous. Perhaps noticing my anxiety, Jessica tried to ease my tension by striking up a conversation on the train, and even gave me some time to relax when I looked tired. I was reminded again how considerate and kind she is. That day, I planned to stay in a hotel, while Jessica was planning to stay at her parents' house. Turns out the business location was near Jessica's hometown, so she had taken off from work the next day. By the way, anticipating the fatigue from the trip, I had also been granted leave for the following day. So, our plan was to head back leisurely on an afternoon train. However, after finishing our work, something unexpected happened. While walking close to my hotel, Jessica suddenly sat down. Apparently, she suffers from anemia sometimes. As she sat, she looked pale and said she felt dizzy. I thought of taking her to a hospital, but after she took her meds, Jessica assured me, "I'll be okay soon," and insisted we didn't need to go. "I'll take a taxi to my parents' house from here, Jake. You can head back to the hotel. It's okay," she said, but I was too worried to let her go alone. I got into the taxi with her, deciding to drop her off at her parents' house. I was supposed to head back right after that, or at least that was the plan. But the moment we arrived at Jessica's parents' house, everything changed. I held Jessica's bags and supported her as we stood at the front door of her family's home. When I rang the doorbell of the two-story American-style house, two younger men, who looked strikingly similar to each other, came out. Both of them shouted in unison, "Mom, Jessica brought a guy home." Before I could even react, I heard the hustle and bustle from inside, and several people, both men and women, rushed out. "Oh my, Jessica, when did you get a boyfriend? Why didn't you tell us? We're not prepared at all. Sister-in-law's boyfriend is a big guy, huh?" While I was in shock, Jessica, having a headache, whispered, "No, he's not." She tried to explain, but then three kids, Jack, Leo, and Sam, came running to the door. "Auntie, you're so late. Let's play. Come on. Draw something for us. Draw." Clearly, the kids weren't interested in our story. Feeling overwhelmed by everyone talking at once, an older man, about my size, came from the back and let out a sigh. "Everyone, please calm down. At least let them in." With this atmosphere, I couldn't say, "I'll just head out now." So, I was warmly welcomed and ended up stepping inside Jessica's family home. Feeling unwell, Jessica decided to rest upstairs, and I was invited into their huge living room. That was where I was introduced to everyone. And boy, that introduction was just something else. Living in Jessica's family home was her father, named Tyler, her mother Chelsea, Jessica's twin younger brothers, a younger sister named Mason, grandparents, and even a great-grandmother. Adding to that, because Jessica had returned home after a long time, her older brother, Kevin, and his wife Lena, their three kids, and a close family friend, who seemed to be the boyfriend of another sister, had also came over for dinner. So, on this day, there was a total of 14 people at Jessica's house. Growing up as an only child, I was used to a quiet and calm household. Well, this was also because both my parents and I were not very talkative. And thus, the atmosphere at Jessica's house was so overwhelming for me. Not only was there a big family, but each one talked nonstop, like a machine gun firing away. Moreover, everyone would just start talking, regardless of whether someone else was already speaking. I felt like I had to be some kind of superhuman to keep up with them all. For my part, I was desperately trying to explain, I'm not her boyfriend. I'm just a coworker. You don't have to be shy about it. How long have you two been dating? Was the kind of thing they kept asking, not listening to a word I said. I felt hopeless. However, they weren't bad people. Proof of that was the endless stream of food and drinks they brought out. By that time, I had completely missed my chance to return to my hotel. Then, Jessica, who had been resting upstairs, came down to the first floor. Whether the medicine had worked or resting helped, Jessica's complexion had improved. Seeing me being bombarded with questions, Jessica sighed deeply. "Oh, Jake, I'm so sorry," she said. Jessica then explained to her family that I was just a co-worker and I had given her a ride home because she felt ill. Jessica's family seemed disappointed to find out I wasn't her boyfriend, but they quickly adjusted. "Whether you're a co-worker or not, you're still our guest. Is there anything you don't like to eat? You're staying over, right?" "Well, I was thinking of staying at a hotel, and there's no worry for my dinner. I can grab something at a convenience store or something," I replied. But the adults insisted on having a drink and chat, and the kids kept asking me to stay, saying, "You have to stay over." Feeling pressured, I finally called the hotel to cancel my reservation. Jessica leaned over and whispered apologetically in my ear, "I'm really sorry. Are you okay with this?" Even though Jessica said that, the truth was, I was starting to enjoy this place. While having some drinks and food, I'd really warmed up to everyone. I'm not great at talking with women, but the men in this house were quite chatty and made it fun to converse. And while I might be a bit shy, I've always loved lively atmospheres. Being an only child, I've always dreamed of big families. Everyone here is pretty assertive, but they're also hilarious, and Jessica's mom makes some delicious food. Plus, Jessica's twin brothers, Brandon and Kyle, are 26, close to my age, so we got along. No, it's my first time in such a lively setting, but I'm starting to have fun. I'm the one who should apologize, staying over at my boss's family home like this. No, I'm glad you're here. My family's a bit loud, but if you're enjoying yourself, then it's worth it. I couldn't help but think that perhaps Jessica's considerate personality came from this family background. As the night went on and more drinks were poured, Brandon and Kyle brought out an old photo album of Jessica's childhood. Looking through it, I wondered how unexpected this whole situation was. Going on a business trip with my attractive boss to her hometown and ending up coming close with her family. Even though it was an unexpected event, seeing how pleased Jessica seemed with me bonding with her family made me glad that I came here. Lost in these thoughts, Tyler, who had been in the bathroom, returned. "How far have you guys gotten?" To which Brandon responded, "We just talked about when Jessica finished elementary school." A tipsy Tyler, along with Brandon and Kyle, have been telling me various stories from Jessica's childhood. "Oh right. Mind if I continue? You're not bored, are you?" To be honest, I suspected the stories from the older guys were a bit exaggerated, but they were darn entertaining. I'm all ears. I was eager to hear more. "Stop talking about embarrassing stuff, okay?" Jessica blushed. A side of her I'd never seen at the office, and it was something new. Even then, the family revolved around the stories about Jessica, and eventually, Tyler, perhaps was too tipsy, dozed off. I noticed others, including the children, had gone to bed. In the kitchen, I could see Jessica, and the eldest son's wife was starting to clean up. Catching a glimpse of Jessica in an apron, an image I'd never be able to see in the office, I couldn't help but feel a surge of excitement. But as Brandon observed me, he whispered to me with a smirk on his face, "You have a crush for my sister, don't you? It's so obvious." "What? No, I mean..." While I blushed in panic, Kyle also chimed in, whispering, "Just spill the beans. Maybe Jessica feels..." Nah, maybe I shouldn't give it away. After they teased me enough, the two brothers headed to their rooms upstairs. I was left alone in the living room, pondering over Brandon and Kyle's words. I had chosen not to confess my feelings, but what if Jessica felt the same way about me? I tried to keep calm, but memories of the photographs and Jessica's life journey filled my mind. Jessica has always been deeply loved by her family. I thought, if I could be loved by someone like her, I'd be truly blessed. Encouraged by Brandon and Kyle's hints, I began to feel some courage. I felt that if I missed this moment, I might never find the nerve again. So, once the cleaning was done and Jessica returned from the kitchen, I mustered the courage and confessed my feelings. I've liked you for a long time now. I always felt you were out of my league. I thought I should just give up, but I couldn't. I want to become someone special for you. Jessica was clearly surprised by my sudden confession, and her cheeks soon turned red. Do you remember asking me why I was always caring about you? When I first saw you, I thought you were like my father, big in stature, but kind-hearted inside. However, during a business gathering, I overheard you talking about how your size was an insecurity for you. That's when I felt the urge to cheer you up. Indeed, I always felt self-conscious about my large frame and timid personality. I thought you shouldn't feel that way. You always step up for the physical works at the office, right? And you offer to help out with chores, always with a smile. Initially, I just wished you'd have more confidence, but before I knew it, I found myself caring about you more and more. I had no idea she had noticed all those little things about me. My heart was racing, and my palms were sweaty. But when I looked into Jessica's eyes, they were glistening and wavering. I wasn't the only one who was nervous. She took a deep breath and said, "It was me who has liked you from the beginning. If you're okay with it, would you date me?" Holding back my urge to jump in joy, I took her hand and replied, "Yes, yes. Thank you so much," bowing my head. But remembering how sweaty my hands were, I tried to pull away, yet Jessica held on tightly, making it impossible to let go. I still remember the happiness I felt over such a small thing. The next day, after announcing our relationship to Jessica's entire family, they seemed ready to throw a party, despite it being early morning. We managed to avoid that, but I was overjoyed by how warmly her family accepted me. After saying our goodbyes to Jessica's family, we took the same Amtrak train home. Sitting next to each other, we sneakily held hands. It felt like I was a teenager again, and also a bit embarrassing. Just holding hands made my heart race like crazy. She's truly a beautiful person, and a year into our relationship, we got married. Our wedding was lively with Jessica's family in full attendance. During the ceremony, I found myself reminiscing. Me, with my big, bear-like physique, and my stunning boss, Jessica. Despite our differences, we became closer. Thinking back to the business trip to her hometown, everything happened so fast. As I recalled this, a performance started by Jessica's siblings, making everyone laugh till they nearly rolled over. At the same time, realizing I was becoming a part of this wonderful family lifted my spirits. Whether it was happiness or amusement, or both, tears streamed down my face. "You're crying already," said Jessica, wiping away my tears, dressed in a beautiful white wedding gown. Jessica's beauty was so blinding that it only made me tear up more. Seeing this, even Jessica's brothers and father couldn't help but tear up themselves. "Jessica, I'm sorry for crying so much. I'm just so happy and grateful. Thank you for making me a part of such an amazing family. I know I'm emotional, but I promise I'll be a strong man. Just let me cry for today." As I sniffled, Jessica gently wiped my eyes with a handkerchief and said, "It's okay for you to be a crybaby. I'll always be here to wipe away your tears." She accepts me for who I am. I might have married an angel. That's genuinely how I felt, and it was the best day of my life. Do you think someone with only a high school diploma like you could find another job? Miss Anderson said that, looking down on me. I calmly stated the facts. About that, actually, I'm about to become the head manager at your workplace. What? What do you mean? Miss Anderson was shocked, but this was undeniably true. My aspiration to work in department stores stems from my experiences during my childhood. I was very close to my grandfather and was heavily influenced by him, as he was a department store manager himself. My name is Cody Green. I'm a 24-year-old working professional. By the way, I'm single and don't have a girlfriend. Currently, I work at a large department store. I started working there right after high school, so this is my 6th year in the workforce. When I tell people I work in a department store, some sees as an easy job, but it's not. Working in a department store actually requires a lot of skills. This could be said for most service industries, but dealing with difficult customers and unreasonable complaints is a daily occurrence. The more customers that visit, the more likely it is that problems will arise. To always provide excellent customer service, it's essential to continuously improve product knowledge and conversation skills. It's our duty to keep learning so that our customers can have a pleasant shopping experience. It's not just about selling products and being done with it. Above all, department store employees must always present themselves well, behave gracefully, and be the kind of people suitable for the store. Being a department store worker, which might seem glamorous at a glance, is actually quite challenging. There were times when I felt like giving up, but during those times, I would always think of my late grandfather. My grandfather passed away when I entered elementary school, but until then, he had always managed a department store inherited from his father in our local town. The department store my grandfather owned was not very large, perhaps because it was a family business. However, with the expertise he'd accumulated over the years, it was always bustling and beloved by the locals. With its glitzy displays and the constant stream of people, the department store always felt like a vibrant festival. Watching the delighted customers shopping would always make my young heart leap with joy. I loved the special atmosphere of the store, filled with my grandfather's touches. Whenever I had the chance, I used to visit the department store. My grandfather, always in a sharp suit and efficiently managing his tasks, radiated a youthful energy despite his age. Even though he was the owner, he never acted arrogant. He always humbly went to the sales floor himself and took the lead in handling challenging tasks. Seeing his dedication, the other employees had a strong trust in him. The positive atmosphere in the department store was largely due to my grandfather's character. Things were usually peaceful, but one day, an incident occurred. A customer came forward, mentioning there was a shabbily dressed mother and child in the food court. Immediately, my grandfather and I headed to the food court on the first floor. There, a mother and child dressed in ragged clothes sat at a table, with complimentary drink in front of them. The pair consisted of a mother, who looked to be in her 30s, and a young son about the same age as me at that time. Even from a distance, it was clear that they were both exhausted. The other customers around were also a little rustled, with uneasy expressions. The mother must have sensed this too. She was looking down and blushing with embarrassment. One of the ladies whispered to my grandfather, "Could you please ask them to leave?" Upon hearing this, my grandfather slowly approached the two. Seeing him approach, the mother and son looked scared, probably thinking they'd be reprimanded for not ordering any food. But my grandfather, with a gentle voice meant to ease their tension, said to them, "I'm so sorry for the wait. You're here for the interview, right? The interview room is right this way. Please follow me." "Huh?" My grandfather said this, causing the mother to widen her eyes in surprise. Of course, it was the first time my grandfather met her, and there was no real interview scheduled. but he acted quickly to ensure the two of them wouldn't attract any more attention from curious onlookers. Leading them with a professional air, he guided them to the reception room, saying, "Right this way." Once in the reception room, he offered the mother and child drinks and a variety of snacks. Upon asking the mother her name, it was revealed that she was named Karen. And apparently, her son, named Taylor, was around my age. Taylor seemed quite hungry, his eyes shining at the sight of the snacks. Karen apologized profusely to my grandfather. "I'm so sorry for coming to the department store looking like this. We've startled other customers and caused a nuisance." Despite her disheveled appearance, Karen's demeanor and way of speaking were surprisingly refined. Both my grandfather and I were taken aback. Taylor also began to eat the snacks neatly after saying thank you. This parent and child seemed to have proper manners and social skills. "It's no trouble at all, but if you don't mind sharing, is there something difficult going on?" "Well, my husband was abusive, and I managed to escape with my child. Daddy was really scary." "That sounds tough," I said to Taylor, feeling sympathetic even at his young age. "At first, we stayed in hotels to avoid sleeping outside, but we ran out of money, and that's why we were in the food court. I'm truly sorry. There's no need to apologize so much. We've had folks like you come into this department store before. In fact, I have some pamphlets from social services. Would you like some information?" Saying this, my grandfather handed her a brochure. Karen thanked my grandfather multiple times. "Thank you. I never knew there were shelters for women suffering from domestic violence. I think we'll seek help from them first." As Karen prepared to leave with Taylor, then my grandfather said, "Thank you so much for coming. And by the way, Karen, you passed the test." "Huh? What are you talking about?" My grandfather, with a smile, explained. "I'm talking about a job interview. If you're willing, I'd like to formally hire you as a full-time employee here." "Me, a full-time employee?" "Yes. In speaking with you, I see that you have a good interpersonal skill set. This department store also provides you with a uniform and a daycare service for your children. We would very much like to work with you." Tears filled Karen's eyes at my grandfather's words. She kept saying, "Thank you," with a voice thick with emotion. Even now, 20 years later, that moment remains vivid in my mind. I aspired to be just like my grandfather, a man full of integrity and justice, in that moment. Good morning. From that day on, Karen began working as a full-time employee at the department store. Though she looked worn out when we first met, once she applied some makeup and wore the store uniform, she looked entirely different. Karen turned out to be a stunningly beautiful woman. Her polished demeanor meant she quickly fit into her new role. Customers praised her for her pleasant customer service. With a stable salary, Karen's life began to stabilize. While she worked, Taylor spent his time in the daycare. I often played with him there. "Hey, Taylor, I'm sorry it's just hand-me-downs, but I'm giving you some clothes." Saying that, I gave my clothes to Taylor. I knew Taylor's family was still struggling financially, so I wanted to help out. My mom had suggested it. In reality, not only were there hand-me-downs, but also brand new clothes, but I kept that a secret from Taylor and his family. "Thanks a lot. My mom was saying we don't have many clothes, so this helps a lot." Taylor thanked me with a smile on his face. Just as his mother, Karen, was strikingly beautiful, Taylor too had a well-structured face and was quite handsome. I always enjoyed spending time with Taylor and wished every day could be like that. Unfortunately, that daily routine ended as soon as I started elementary school. 3 days after my elementary school entrance ceremony, my grandfather passed away. It was such a sudden departure that the whole department store was caught off guard. Initially, my dad took over the department store, but then a new problem arose. A nationwide chain shopping mall had opened nearby, and the customers started flocking there. The timing was bad because our store was in the middle of a management transition, which probably contributed to the problem. In the end, our struggling department store was merged into the large mall. It's all because I wasn't good enough. I've really let everyone down. My father was deeply saddened by the whole situation. But sometimes it's just bad luck. My mom and the other employees didn't solely blame my father for everything. It's sad that the memories of the department store with my grandfather are gone, but sometimes you just have to accept fate. I tried to move on from the loss of Karen and Taylor by constantly reminding myself of that. Thanks to my father's connections, Karen got a full-time job at a department store in a neighboring state. Karen came to say her thanks when she was leaving. I can't thank you enough for all the help and for introducing me to my new job. No problem at all. You've contributed a lot to the department store. Wishing you the best in your new venture. I wanted to say goodbye to Taylor as well, but unfortunately, he wasn't there. Taylor, being only 7 years old at that time, seemed unable to accept the situation. The loss of the department store, filled with memories of fun times at the daycare, seemed to have taken a toll on him. I wondered how Taylor is doing now. Even in high school, I often thought of him. Currently, both my parents work at different department stores. Unlike the time when my grandfather had a thriving business, our financial situation isn't as comfortable as before. But we're a close-knit family, and we're content with our lives. I'm sure my grandfather in heaven would want nothing more than to see us happy. Now in my junior year of high school, I've been appointed as the vice president of the student council, so I'm more motivated than ever to attend school. My friend Mike said, "Hey, Cody, you're working with Miss Anderson in the student council, right? Can you introduce me to her?" Hearing the surname Anderson, I got nervous. There's no way I can introduce you to President Anderson. She might look cute, but she's really strong-willed. In our student council, Ms. Anderson, a female student, was the president. Apparently, her father runs a law firm, so she's kind of an heiress. Our school allows casual clothing, so Ms. Anderson always dresses stylishly. Because of her beauty, she seems to pull off any outfit. Just admit it, Cody, you're just trying to get close to Ms. Anderson, aren't you? No way. Even if I tried, Ms. Anderson doesn't seem to like me at all. Indeed. Ms. Anderson has always been tough on me. One day when we were alone in the council room, I tried to strike up a conversation. I rarely talk to girls, so I'm not sure what to say. Oh, I've got it. You have a great sense of fashion, don't you? Huh? You are always so stylish, and the other girls think you're fantastic. Are you saying I try too hard? No, I didn't mean it like that. With anger evident on her beautiful face, Ms. Anderson shot me a sharp glare. Whatever I choose to wear, it's none of your business. With that, Ms. Anderson swiftly turned away and went back to her work. It's tough when you try to give a compliment, and it gets misconstrued like that. I didn't know how to respond. I just felt out of place and continued working in silence. With that, Ms. Anderson swiftly turned away and went back to her work. It's tough when you try to give a compliment, and it gets misconstrued like that. I didn't know how to respond. There were times she just stared at me silently, and when I asked, "Is something wrong?" she quickly responded with, "Nothing at all," and averted her gaze. When she saw me talking to other girls, she promptly chimed in, "Stop chatting and focus on your work." When I shared the story about Miss Anderson with Mike, he said, "Well, Ms. Anderson was chosen as the student council president, and she's pretty popular among both boys and girls. I don't think she's a bad person." That's true. Many students indeed described Ms. Anderson as a very kind girl. She was excellent in her role in the student council and always got high grades. She was the most popular at school, partly because of her beauty. I wished I could have gotten closer to Ms. Anderson. But unfortunately, in the year we spent together on the student council, the distance between us never seemed to close. When discussing our future plans in high school, I told my teacher I planned to work at a department store. Given my grades, the teacher suggested college, but due to financial constraints, I stuck to my decision. Because my high school was a preparatory school, I was the only student among my classmates who had graduated from high school and entered the workforce. I had this vague feeling that I probably wouldn't see my high school buddies again after this. Yep. Including Ms. Anderson. Let's take a graduation photo together. On graduation day, a lot of girls gathered around Ms. Anderson, and they all took a commemorative photo together. It was the first time I saw Ms. Anderson, who usually appeared reserved, laughing so openly and cheerfully. For some reason, my heart raced. While I often said I wasn't comfortable around Ms. Anderson, I might have had a soft spot for her. I'm not saying I wanted to date her, but I do wish we could have had better conversations. With that thought, I left the school building. 6 years after graduation, just when the sweet and bitter memories of youth were fading, I received an invitation for a reunion. The invite was for our entire grade to have a reunion at a fancy hotel. Looking at the invitation, I was surprised to see that Ms. Anderson was one of the organizers. Considering she was a beauty and came from a well-to-do family, I thought she must have gotten married by now, but her last name hasn't changed, and it seems she's still single. It's not like I'm going for Ms. Anderson, but I decided to attend the reunion anyway. And then came the day of the reunion. Heading to the hotel, there were far more attendees than I expected. Upon entering, I received a sheet listing all the participants from one of the organizers. The sheet had sections for current status, a message to your high school self, current occupation, and we could learn about everyone's recent life. Come to think of it, this questionnaire was in the invitation. I heard that it was Ms. Anderson's idea to have this survey and to distribute these sheets on the day. I was impressed by her ingenuity. Today, Ms. Anderson was naturally the center of attention, surrounded by many of our classmates and chatting happily. She looked even more stunning than before, elegantly dressed. "Wow, you work at that prestigious department store." "Oh, it's not a big deal," she replied with a smile when asked about her current job, but in reality, getting a permanent position at that renowned department store is quite selective. Given its long-standing reputation, one needs to have decent academic achievements and communication skills, and looks and demeanor suitable for the store's ambience are also important. Considering Miss Anderson graduated from an elite college and her appearance and manners exude elegance, she probably was deemed fit for the store and was offered the position. While I was enjoying conversations with old classmates, I occasionally stole glances at Miss Anderson without her noticing. Though we were both in the student council, I hesitated to approach her. I figured she probably didn't want to mingle with someone like me. But to my surprise, Miss Anderson approached me. I was taken aback, but she said with a straight face, "Cody, long time no see. You left the current occupation section on the questionnaire blank. Are you currently unemployed?" I hadn't expected that topic and replied a bit sheepishly, "Well, sorry, I'm changing jobs soon, so I left it blank intentionally." "Do you think you, with just a high school diploma, can find another job?" Miss Anderson remarked with a hint of condescension. I calmly responded with the facts. "Actually, I'm about to become a manager at your department store." What do you mean?" she asked in shock. That was the undeniable truth. I was about to leave my current job to become a manager at the same prestigious store where Ms. Anderson works. Thanks to decent performance at my current job, and also leveraging connections from my late grandfather, the store owner offered me a position. "So, you mean, you'll be my boss?" she asked incredulously. "Yeah, that's the gist of it." "You're kidding." I was on guard, thinking that she might say something, but with a stunned look, she was quite subdued for the rest of the reunion. I was puzzled by her attitude, but later, I was officially appointed as a manager at the well-established department store and started working. Being a manager was tough at times, but it was more fulfilling, and I was blessed with competent and reliable subordinates. I enjoyed working in a privileged environment, but Ms. Anderson always seemed distant and intimidating towards me. Cody, I don't understand this part. In contrast to Ms. Anderson, a new female employee named Lily was actively speaking to me. She also had a different charm from Ms. Anderson, and she was a very cute and glamorous woman. In addition, she had a friendly personality, and many male employees admired Lily. I thought she was a friendly and wonderful woman, but for some reason, I didn't feel any romantic feelings for her. Oh, you can do it like this. Still, I was glad to have such active communication. I believed that proper collaboration would make the atmosphere in the company even better. But for some reason, whenever I was talking to Lily, Ms. Anderson jumped in right away. Hey, Lily, if you don't understand something, ask me or others. Yikes, Ms. Anderson. What's with the yikes? Manager has more important work to do. Come to think of it, this kind of thing happened in high school too. When I talked to another girl while working for the student council, Ms. Anderson would say work. I wonder if I look like I'm slacking off in her eyes. I gently quieted her. Ms. Anderson, well, I think I need to understand what pots the new employees find difficult to understand as a manager, so if I'm really busy, I'll ask another employee, so you don't have to worry about me that much. I intended to convey it in a gentle tone, but she didn't seem to like it. You're being all sweet to female employees. That's sexual harassment. She left after saying that. What's with her attitude? I feel the same way as Lily did. I wondered why Ms. Anderson, who is usually such a competent woman, becomes emotional about me. I wondered if, just like in high school, I will continue to spend all my time like this without ever being able to understand her. I was worried about Ms. Anderson, but one day there was a drinking party at my company. The first party was held in a serious atmosphere, but as it went to the second and third parties, members were divided by department, and before I knew it, I was having a third party with members of my department. Cody, please drink more. Oh, I'm good. Lily and almost everyone else was drunk, and they drank a lot and were completely drunk. But only Ms. Anderson didn't talk to anyone and was quietly drinking by herself. I was worried about her as a manager, and I couldn't enjoy drinking as I wanted to. I wonder why I'm so concerned about her. Let's stay together tonight. Lily, you're a little too drunk. With the help of alcohol, Lily approached me more aggressively than usual. I was wondering how to deal with it when suddenly Ms. Anderson started crying. Sob, sob. Ms. Anderson, are you okay? What is it? The other members, including Lily, didn't seem to notice that Ms. Anderson was crying because they were drunk. I wanted to discreetly get her out of there without anyone noticing. I told her, Ms. Anderson, you don't seem to be feeling well. I'll drive you to the station, and I left the party right then. Everyone was already drunk, so when the two of us disappeared, nobody seemed to notice or care. I first took Ms. Anderson to a nearby park. I figured if we sat on a bench there, she might calm down for a moment. After handing her a bottle of water I bought, she took a sip and appeared a bit calmer. Ms. Anderson, what's wrong? Did something happen? As I asked this, she looked at me, her eyes filled with tears. I thought Lily would take you, Cody, from me, and it made me so sad. What? The fact that Ms. Anderson referred to me as Cody was so shocking. My mind went blank for a moment. And her revelation only added to my confusion. Ms. Anderson, are you drunk? Yeah, if I wasn't drunk, I wouldn't be able to express my feelings this way. Oh, the good old days, back when all we did was innocently play together. I had no idea what she was talking about. You mean back in high school? No, when we were much younger, when you and I were in preschool. Ah, it then hit me. I realized Ms. Anderson's first name was Taylor. I had always addressed her by her last name, but she was actually Taylor. But I remembered playing with a boy. Wait, but your surname was different, and besides, wasn't Taylor a boy's name back then? Back then we were Sopo. I had a short haircut and mostly wore hand-me-downs, so everyone thought I was a boy. I wanted to tell everyone I was a girl, especially after Cody gave me his old boy clothes, but it became even harder. Also, my mom remarried, so my surname changed. I couldn't believe it. The popular girl in school, Ms. Anderson, was that Taylor? I was dumbfounded for a moment. Now that I think of it, Ms. Anderson does resemble Taylor's mom. To think that Taylor had grown up to be such a beautiful and mature woman was all too shocking. Tears rolling down her face, she continued. Remember, I never said goodbye to you in the end when we were little. I understand now, as an adult, how heartbroken I was when our favorite department store closed down. I somewhat resented you and your parents. Ms. Anderson, I know it couldn't be helped, but in high school, I hated how I treated you so coldly. I wanted to come forward and say it's me, Taylor, but I didn't want you to see my weak side from back then. So, I dressed up and focused on my appearance. Now that we work together again, I still can't be honest with my feelings. It's pathetic, and that's why I broke down. I'm truly sorry. Taylor. For the first time in ages, I called her by that name. She looked surprised for a moment. I missed the department store owned by my grandpa too, but our friendship is forever, and the memories will always be with us. Nothing has changed between us. We can always start anew. Cody. Taylor called out my name and clung to me. As I embraced her, I realized just how much she'd struggled and suffered from her insecurities. That's why I wanted to cherish her, scars and all. I guess I was drawn to her because she was Taylor. From that day, we started dating and also built a great working relationship. I want to become a wonderful department store manager, just like your grandpa. Seeing Taylor say that with a smile, she truly shined. It must have been my grandpa's kindness that brought us back together. My name is Bob Thompson. I'm a 25-year-old working at a small to medium-sized firm. Every day it's just back and forth between home and the office, but I always make it a point to stop by a certain place. It's a park near the subway station, and there's always someone sitting on a bench there. Good evening. Hut, you are here again. The reply came from a young woman. But with her long blonde hair, she looked like a typical rebel at first glance. Well, she really is a rebel, apparently the leader of some female gang. Why I am talking to her in the park, let's go back a few months. One day, I decided to take a shortcut through that park. It was dark, thought it was deserted, but there she was, Catherine, sitting on the bench. She had what looked like a bruise from a fight on her cheek. Concerned, I blurted out, "Are you okay?" But she snapped, "Mind your own business," and ran off. That was our first encounter. To be honest, it was pretty awful, but for some reason, I couldn't get Catherine out of my mind. It struck me because she reminded me so much of my younger self. Not that I was a rebel, but I had my wild days too. When my parents divorced, I was placed in an orphanage and grew up there for the rest of my childhood. No one ever visited, and I didn't get along with the other kids. Maybe it was childish pride, but I believed asking for help was admitting defeat and showing tears was for the weak. That mindset didn't change even after I left the facility at 18 and got my current job. Entering the working world without a clue and too proud to ask for advice. Whenever I messed up, I just apologize and try to fix things on my own, usually making things worse. The president, seeing all this, became concerned. The company I work for isn't big, so everyone's pretty close, including the president. When he invited me out for a drink, I thought for sure I was in for a lecture. But the president praised me, saying I was working really hard. If you don't know something, just ask those around you. If you need help, just ask for it. Relying on someone doesn't mean you're weak, he told me. He really understood how I felt. Relying on someone isn't a sign of weakness. I totally agreed with him, but at that time, it hit me like a bolt out of the blue. His words truly saved me. From then on, I stopped bottling up everything, and my mistakes significantly decreased. Catherine, she really reminded me of myself back then. So, I began visiting the park often, looking for her. I just wanted to talk with her for my own satisfaction. She frequented the park, and nearly 10 times, I'd approach her and she'd run away. Every time I saw her, she had some kind of injury, so I started carrying band-aids, hoping to give her one someday. On our 11th encounter, maybe she gave up or something, but she finally said, "You're so persistent," and we started talking. At this point, I was pretty stubborn myself, and my initial goal had shifted. I just wanted a proper introduction. So, when I got the chance to talk to her, I started with my story. I told her I was worried about her injuries and that it was unsafe for her to be alone. She responded with a scowl, "You're not my dad, are you?" But she gratefully accepted the band-aid I offered. I could tell that despite her tough exterior, deep down, she was a sincere person. Maybe it was because I gave her a band-aid, or she just wanted more, but she began coming to the park daily. We chat for about 10 minutes, and I learned that her name was Catherine. She was 20, the leader of a girls' gang, and she'd get into fights with her crew daily. One of the crew members, she's got quite the fiery temper, and she's like, "The card boss is too soft, so I'm gonna set things straight." And she started a fight with me. When I fought back hard, next thing I know, none of my crew was on my side anymore. She said, looking down sadly. I took over as the leader of the group, trying to work for everyone's good, but seems like folks aren't too happy with the way I do things. I might get kicked out soon. At that moment, her face looked so young and full of worry. I've never been involved with gang stuff, but I do know the loneliness of being isolated in a group. But I also knew that giving advice might just earn me a "Who do you think you're, my parent?" All I can say is, being in charge is tough, was all I could muster in her support. So, one day, after this routine of meeting up at the park and talking for about 10 minutes had been going on for a while, a significant incident that would change our relationship occurred. As always, I went to the park, carrying some band-aids. But when I got there, Catherine was curled up, sitting on the bench with her legs pulled up, face buried in her arms. I rushed to her side. "Catherine, what happened?" I exclaimed. When she looked up, tears were streaming down her face. Oh, Bob." The moment she saw my face, she hugged me tightly. I was taken aback, but tried to comfort her by patting her back. After a while, her crying slowed down, punctuated by occasional hiccups. On closer look, her cheek was swollen, and her injuries seemed worse than usual. Seeing my concern, she started to cry again. I lost a fight. They kicked me out. Turns out, she finally lost to that fiery member and was dethroned as the gang's boss. Over time, it seems the majority had sided with this new leader, and no one was there to support Catherine. "I don't want to be alone. I'm scared." She looked genuinely terrified. Seeing her like this, I couldn't help but blurt out, "I'm here for you. It'll be all right." It might have been a reckless thing to say, but I couldn't think of anything else to calm her down. After that, I just listened to her quietly. She talked about how she tried her best but still faced backlash from her crew and wondered what she could have done differently. I didn't have the answers, but I guess just talking helped her calm down. Eventually, she stopped crying altogether. Sorry, Bob. I showed you a pathetic side of me. Just because you cried or rallied on someone doesn't mean you're weak, Catherine. So, don't make that face. When I said that, Catherine's eyes widened in surprise. I realized it was the same reaction I had once. Probably, the president must have felt this way when he comforted me back then. Given that we spoke longer than usual, it was already late. She seemed calm, but it was getting late, so I thought I should probably drive her home. Checking the time, I realized, oh no, I missed the last train. Apparently, we get so engrossed in our conversation that the last train had left. Tomorrow's an off day from work, so after dropping her off, I thought of staying over somewhere, but then Catherine dropped a bombshell. Why don't you come over to my place? Even if she's 20, I thought it was a bit much to go inside her house. However, Catherine said, if you're dropping me off, it's fine, right? You won't do anything weird, will you? I assured her I had no ill intentions. The more I would have denied it, the guiltier I might have seemed. So, I gratefully accepted her offer. She lived in a small apartment. Apparently, she used to live with her dad, but they don't get along anymore, so she lives alone now. Thanks for having me. Sure, come on in. And like that, I ended up in her room, which was quite unexpected in many ways. There were frilly cushions, pink curtains, and loads of cute stuffed animals. The whole room had a very lovely feel to it. You have a cute room. But isn't everyone's room like this? Seeing my surprised expression, Catherine too seemed taken aback. It seemed she thought her room was pretty standard. I guess most are, but yours is on the cuter side. It wasn't meant in a bad way, but she seemed to have a reaction to the word cute and said, cute. I thought this was normal. Give me a break. This is my first time having someone over. Her face turned beet red with embarrassment. Seeing her like that made me wonder if maybe her regular clothes and underwear were on the cute side too, and my suspicions were confirmed. A quick glance revealed laundry with cute frilly underwear hanging out to dry. She noticed too and hastily shut the curtains. You weren't supposed to see that. Hey, that wasn't on purpose. With her face turning bright red, Catherine began playfully smacking me, and I had no defense. The next day, turns out, we ended up sleeping until noon. That's because, after our previous chat, Catherine suddenly wanted to watch a horse show she had come across. She was screaming out of fear, and we both were laughing and joking around. Turns out, she wanted to watch horse shows but was too scared to watch them alone. A shocking revelation. In fact, her DVR was full of unwatched horse shows she had recorded. Just one more, please. Just one more, okay. Last one, I promise. Like this, we ended up binge-watching almost 10 of the horror shows she had recorded. Even when I suggested we call it a night, Catherine was insatiable, and we continued until dawn. It's been a while since I had this much fun with someone, maybe since I left my folks' house. Waking up in the afternoon, Catherine said that with a somber tone. Feeling for her, I suggested, why not go back home for a visit? From what I heard, aside from being work-focused and often neglecting Catherine, her dad was a pretty regular guy. Catherine looked down, saying, if I go back now, he'll probably just tell me to leave. Look, I might not get the whole parent-child dilemma because I don't have parents, but maybe you should try talking to him. If he tells you to leave, then maybe it's time to really move on. But if you don't talk, you won't even give other possibilities a chance. As I was leaving, I added, you are not my family, so stop preaching me. Catherine replied with a smile as she waved goodbye. She had a look of relief on her face, and that put my mind at ease. A few days later, after work, I decided to visit the park again. However, she was nowhere to be found. But under the usual bench where she sat, there was a note, going to talk with my dad, might not be able to come here for a while. When things settle down, I'll be back. Thanks, Bob. Honestly, It wasn't safe for a young woman to be sitting in a park at night anyway, so it was probably for the best. If she can reconcile with her family, then that's great. I thought that, but I still felt a bit lonely. A month later. That day was hectic at work. Someone made an entry error, and we received a massive amount of supplies. I was being blamed for the mistake by my boss. Yes, I placed an order, a set of supplies that arrived at the same time, but the bulk shipment was not my order. Yet my boss insisted, "It must have been you. You're the one who always messes up and troubles everyone around here." It's true that I caused some trouble when I first joined the company, so I couldn't blame him for suspecting me. But he was clearly jumping to conclusions. No matter how much I defended myself, no one believed me. I even started thinking, maybe I should just admit to it. The issue with the order was already confirmed to be a clerical error, right? Suddenly, I heard someone's voice. I looked up to see a beautiful woman I didn't recognize. But the voice, I knew that voice. "Are you, Catherine?" "Hey there, Bob. Long time no see." She had dyed her hair black, but it was definitely Catherine. Why was Catherine at my office? Then it clicked. A week ago, the president had mentioned his daughter would be joining as a secretary. She was still in training and was to be introduced formally later, but I never imagined that secretary was Catherine. I think it's not right to jump to conclusions just because you're suspicious. Besides, even if Bob, he maybe made a typo, you're the one who does the final check, right? I think it's unfair to only blame Bob. Sorry about that, Bob. I jumped the gun there. When confronted by Catherine, the boss broke into a cold sweat and said, "Right, I had a business call to make," and hurriedly left. "Thanks, Catherine. You really saved me there." "No big deal. Anything for Bob." "Hey, Catherine, don't just drop the formalities with your coworkers." That's when the president made an appearance. He explained the situation again, and it turned out Catherine was his daughter. My advice had apparently been the catalyst for them starting to mend their father-daughter relationship. Catherine's sudden departure had shocked him, but after she opened up about her feelings, it seems he was able to genuinely engage with her. "Thank you, Bob. Thanks to you, I can spend time with my daughter again. I'm embarrassed to admit, but I haven't been much of a father to her. That's why I saw her in you." I realized what he meant. The words the president told me were meant for his daughter as well. Those words, in a roundabout way, reached Catherine through me. "Thanks, Bob. Because of you, I'm not alone anymore. How many times have I told you not to drop the formalities at work? He is also your mentor here." Chiding Catherine, the president turned to me. "Being a mentor is quite a responsibility. I'd like Catherine to take over the company someday. After she finishes her training as my assistant, I want her to work on the floor for 6 months. I'd like you to be her mentor, Bob. Can I count on you?" Me. I wondered if I was up to the task, but the president believes that teaching others is a form of learning. And since Catherine was saying things like, "I'm counting on you, Bob," I couldn't refuse. "All right then, looking forward to working with you, Catherine." I started hanging out with Catherine like this, but since we personally got along so well, we began going out for drinks together too. Before we knew it, we were dating and eventually got married amidst the blessings of everyone. Having become her husband, I genuinely thought I should support Catherine, who was set to become the CEO. But then, Catherine dropped a bombshell saying, "Bob should become the CEO. I'm more suited to be a secretary." Suddenly, I was the candidate for the CEO, getting all the know-how drilled into me by the current president, or should I say, my father-in-law. Honestly, it's exhausting every day, but if I can repay the man who changed my life, it's a small price to pay. The president, or rather my father-in-law, always tells me with a big smile, "I'm so glad you became my son-in-law," and he guides me rigorously. Time flies, and before I realized, 5 years had passed. Even looking back, these 5 years flew by incredibly fast. I fully embraced the role of CEO, and while I've gotten used to the work now, things are still hectic. And here's why. Hey, James, wait for me. Nope. Playtime. James sure loves to run around. You see, shortly after we got married, Catherine became pregnant. Now we're chasing after our lively 4-year-old son. Raising a kid sure is tough. I always admired those teachers and childcare centers who could handle several kids at once. I'm struggling with just my own son. Next time, I'm racing against Daddy. Hold on, just a moment. Come on, Daddy, you can do it. Catherine cheers me on as I'm panting hard. Over the past 5 years, Catherine has truly become a stunning woman. Her makeup has matured, and she's known as the beautiful mom at the daycare. Now, Catherine is expecting our second child. So, in her stead, I'm going all out entertaining our son. All right, break's over. Let's race, kiddo. Yay, all right. I'm so happy right now. My adorable son and my beloved Catherine. And our unborn child, whom I've yet to meet. For these three, I'd do anything. Once feeling so alone in the world, my family now is everything to me. I'm determined to make them the happiest they can be. That's the goal I've set for myself in life. But first, I've got to be a playmate for the little guy right in front of me. Waving to my son, I run around the park's grassy field with him. My name is Jake. I'm a 36-year-old single man. Ever since I graduated from an elite private college, I've been working at the same company. My workplace is a major corporation with excellent benefits and a generous salary. I'm currently holding a manager position, and I'm truly grateful for it. I want to continue working with dedication and love for my company. Some hear my title and say, "You must be popular with the ladies," but in reality, I've never had a girlfriend my entire life. Honestly, I've always admired women and longed for marriage. But after an incident 20 years ago, I've been hesitant about love. I really like you, Jake. Will you go out with me? At 16, I was called behind the school by a girl I liked, and she confessed her feelings. I felt on top of the world hearing those words. I couldn't believe such a cute girl liked me. Shaking with joy, I responded with a big smile. "Oh, thank you. I've always liked you too. Yes, let's date." But the next moment, I felt like I was thrown from heaven to hell. Gotcha. Prank successful. This is hilarious. Suddenly, a group of other girls appeared from behind the school. The moment I heard the word of prank, everything became clear. This confession was just a prank. Seriously, spare me. Even as a joke, confessing to Jake is so creepy. She said this, looking truly disgusted. Her words froze me in shock. Ignoring my reaction, the girls laughed so hard. It must have been hilarious for them to prank a plain and unimpressive guy like me. This became a popular joke at school, and I was the butt of everyone's laughter. It might have been a fun story for everyone else, but it deeply hurt me. That incident left a deep scar on my heart, and even 20 years later, the trauma from that time still torments me. My coworkers, concerned about me, tried setting up group dates and introducing me to women. But in the end, none of it ever worked out. Even when I finally had a woman in front of me, the shock of that day came back to haunt me, and I was unable to express my feelings properly. I always felt that if I said something, I'd just be ridiculed again. Of course, I know this is just me being paranoid, and I'm probably overthinking things. Nevertheless, it was still difficult to regain confidence once lost. I guess love just isn't for me. I've tried telling myself this, thinking I should just give up on everything. But the recent death of my father made me rethink my family again. Apparently, my father had always been worried about my future. If someone wasn't interested in relationships, or if they were committed bachelors, then there's probably no need to force marriage. But if deep down I wanted to start a family, then maybe I should give it another shot to avoid any regrets. Just as I was contemplating this, my mom suggested arranged dating. Our family, partly because my grandfather was a town council chairman, was regarded as a respected land-owning family in the community. This might be why such a proposal came my way. Jake, would you consider going on a matchmaking date? We got an invitation from a relative. I felt as if someone had seen right through my heart, and I was taken aback. Maybe my dad up in heaven arranged this because he's worried about me. That's how I chose to interpret it. Thank you, yeah, I'll give it a shot. My mom seemed surprised by my response, not expecting me to agree. But at the same time, she looked pleased and enthusiastically helped me prepare for the date. And so, the day of the date came. I met the woman in a hotel lounge. Hi, I'm Jake, facing my date, a lady named Emily. I was incredibly nervous. Not just because I'm not great with women, but also because Emily turned out to be even more stunning than I had imagined. Nice to meet you, I'm Emily. Judging by Emily's reaction, my fears were confirmed. She looked at me with an uninterested, expressionless face. But I guess that's to be expected. From what I heard, Emily is the daughter of the president of a listed company. She currently works as a full-time employee at her father's company. It's hard to imagine that a beautiful woman like her, who's also a CEO's daughter, would find someone like me suitable. I'm not what you'd call handsome, nor am I particularly witty or interesting. My job at a major company probably doesn't impress her, given her background. It's clear from Emily's expression that she's not too interested. Well, it's really nice out today, isn't it? Yes, it's a clear sky. Still, I tried to lighten the mood by making small talk about things like the weather. Even if it wasn't all that entertaining, Emily responded without ignoring me, always with politeness. Just as you'd expect from a CEO's daughter. No matter how mundane the conversation was, she was thoroughly polite. However, the more beautiful and polite Emily was, the more downhearted I felt. This date is a total bust. An hour into the date, I took the check and said, "Thank you for today," to Emily. It was fun. Hope we can meet again. Emily said this too, but it was probably just being nice. I kept stumbling over my words, and Emily's reactions seemed distant. It was hard to say we had a fun chat. Jake, how was the matchmaking date? After the date, the matchmaker asked me this, and I shared my honest feelings. Emily is absolutely stunning, way too good for someone like me, but I'm not great at conversation, and it seemed she didn't enjoy herself. I think we're not a match. Really? Emily said she had a good time. The matchmaker mentioned this, but it was likely just a polite gesture. In reality, I hadn't heard from Emily since, and there's been no progress. Love just isn't meant for me. I thought I'd never see Emily again, but later, I'd have a surprising reunion with her. Starting today, a new employee has been assigned to our department. I hope we can all help each other to train her. Director Steve mentioned this while introducing the new employee, and to my surprise, it was Emily. I was taken aback by this unexpected development. Why on earth would the CEO's daughter transfer to our company? My name is Emily Smith. I'm sure I might cause some inconvenience as I'm still learning, but I kindly ask for your guidance. Saying this, Emily gave a respectful nod. The male employees seemed to be heartened by the fact that she was quite beautiful. However, I was overwhelmed with anxiety. almost panicking. At the failed matchmaking event, I'm sure Emily had formed a negative impression of me. Working in the same department now, what was I supposed to do? But, to my astonishment, Emily approached me during lunch break. "Hi, Jake. It's been a while." Even though I thought our relationship ended after that awkward date, seeing Emily again made my heart race uncontrollably. She was that captivating. But I tried to keep a straight face, not letting her notice my feelings. "Oh, hi Emily. Never in my wildest dreams did I think I'd see you here at this company." "Yes, about that. Actually, my father asked me to get some hands-on experience. As you can see, I'm not the best at communicating, so he told me to train at another company." Wow, I was shocked hearing Emily's confession. Honestly, I thought I'd never see her again. And to think I'd end up working at the same company like this. That matchmaking date didn't go well at all, and just being with me must have been quite the ordeal for Emily. And yet, she came to this company for training. Her father must be quite strict, I guess. While I was still grappling with my feelings, Emily, with her ever-calm demeanor, continued to explain. "It was a decision made between my father and the company. Only you're aware of this situation to ensure the other employees don't feel uneasy or obliged. So, please keep this between us. I understand. I'm nervous about this new environment, but if you're here, I feel reassured. I hope we can get along well from now on." Saying that, Emily gave an awkward smile and went back to her work. Even now, despite Emily's polite manner of speaking, she was giving off a distant and cold impression. I had the feeling that she might have forced herself to talk to me, which made me feel uncomfortable. Maybe Emily thinks I have something on her. Perhaps she's worried I might blurt out to everyone that she's the CEO's daughter. So, I decided to reassure Emily. "Look, Emily, I promise I won't ever spill your secret to anyone. You don't have to be so cautious around me." "Huh? What are you talking about?" "Just that. You don't have to be so kind or go out of your way for me. I'm not the best at conversations, and I feel you might get tired of talking to me." Upon hearing that, a sad expression crossed Emily's face. Why does seeing her like this make my heart feel so tight? Do you feel bothered by me following you around, Jake?" "What?" I was taken aback by Emily's unexpected words. Before the arranged date, I had already heard about training at this company. I wasn't sure about it, but after meeting you, I decided to come here. I thought I could grow in a workplace where there's a sincere and kind person like you, Jake, but it must be annoying for you, having a reserved woman like me always around, right? After hearing Emily's words, I was completely taken aback. The first time I met her, I thought she disliked me. But Emily had a rather positive impression of me. At first glance, she seemed distant, but through our conversation, I discovered a different side of her. Emily, like me, is a bit clumsy. She wants to communicate, but can't convey her feelings well, and can't show her true self to someone she just met. Once I learned this about her, I wanted to know Emily more than ever. It's not like that. I've always felt overlooked by women, so I thought you didn't like me either. That's not true. I had a great time on our date, Jake. I'm honored. I hope we can continue to get along. I'm the department head, so if there's anything you don't know, just ask. That conversation was the turning point for us, and we started to get along. As I learned as I got to know her, it seemed difficult to read her emotions from her facial expressions and tone of voice, and she was often misunderstood by those who met her for the first time. I thought our matchmaking date was a disaster, but Emily seemed to have enjoyed it. She didn't contact me after the date because she was hired by our company and wanted to surprise me. Despite her ice queen appearance, I learned that Emily is actually a straightforward and earnest woman. Moreover, she turned out to be incredibly competent, making a big difference at our company. But from my perspective as the department head, Emily definitely had challenges with communication. She's excellent at her job, but her monotone and expressionless manner sometimes gave others the impression she was apathetic and unsympathetic. Also, Emily was very hardworking, often trying to finish all her tasks by herself. From her perspective, she just wanted to be helpful to everyone. However, others perceived it as if it's up to others. I'll do it because I'm better. Kind of a one-woman show. Indeed, she had a self-sacrificing nature. I, considering others' views as well, shared some work-related advice with Emily. Emily had an open-minded character. She listened to my feedback without taking offense and always tried to make improvements. Here's an example. When Emily was engrossed in her work, she often had a stern look. That look intimidated others, so I came up with a way to lighten her mood. Whenever I saw that look, I'd poke the corners of my mouth with my fingers, prompting her to smile. By doing so, Emily began to smile more. Her smile was so charming, and it gradually changed the way others perceived her. In this way, she became aware of how to speak softly in her own way, and began to report, communicate, and consult with those around her as she went about her work. I also wanted others to see her strengths, so I asked Emily to prepare some meeting materials. The documents Emily created were thorough and easy to understand, impressing our coworkers. The materials Emily made are so clear. It must have taken a lot of effort to create something like this. Seeing her dedication to her job, everyone's perception of her began to change. Emily wasn't just talented, but also a very hard-working and sincere woman. It's been 3 months since she joined the company, and she seemed to fit in better than before. Emily's emotions have always been hard to read, but through her work, the other employees started to appreciate her more. Her sincerity and down-to-earth nature were well received by everyone. Emily took the initiative to improve her communication skills, and compared to when she first joined, she's gotten much better at expressing her thoughts. Seeing her continuous self-improvement, I found myself increasingly drawn to her. Though I've had past traumas regarding romantic relationships, I couldn't help but imagine building a warm home with Emily. We've been out for meals together a few times, and we frequently chat on texting apps or over the phone. She often uses smiley emojis in her messages. I believe she's trying to show me she enjoys our time together. I've grown so fond of her. By now, she's become indispensable to me. The moments we spend together are so comforting that I've found myself wishing we could always be this way. Just when everything seemed to be going smoothly, I noticed that something was off with Emily. She looks fine at first glance, but occasionally she'd have a troubled expression. One day, while we were dining at a restaurant, I asked Emily what was bothering her. "Emily, is something wrong? You seem quite troubled." When I asked her this, Emily, looking puzzled, began to deny it. No, it's nothing. I'm fine. Please don't worry about me." She tried to brush it off, but I could see through her lie. She was probably trying to hide it so I wouldn't worry. But I couldn't leave Emily in this condition. I made it a point to always keep an eye on her from then on. Then one day, I came to understand what had been bothering Emily. One day, there was a meeting with a client in the department I belonged to. At a meeting with a client in my department, Emily was assigned to serve coffee. I decided to check on her in the break room. Suddenly, I heard yelling from inside. It was, shockingly, Steve, director. "Hey, stop dawdling. Hurry up with that coffee. Not only are you slow, but you're also so rude. You're useless." Steve said that, hurling abusive words at Emily. She tried to hold back her tears while preparing the coffee. Seeing this, I was certain that Steve was the source of Emily's distress. It was, in fact, Steve who had assigned Emily the task of serving coffee. He must have been harassing her in such a secluded place, This is pure harassment. I couldn't contain myself and confronted Steve. Director, what are you doing? We have clients here, and you're speaking to Emily like that. This could be considered harassment, you know. Even after I said this, Director Steve remained unfazed. I'm just guiding her as her boss. She thinks she's all that because she's somewhat attractive. Such a cold face. So arrogant. Besides, even if you guys report this, my esteemed position won't be affected in the slightest. That's when it happened. Steve, how could you say such things to the daughter of our client? Oh, my daughter is that cheeky, huh? Wait, isn't that Mr. Smith, the CEO of our client, and our CEO? As soon as our CEO and Emily's father, Mr. Smith, appeared in the break room, Steve turned pale as a ghost. That's right. The client who came to our company today was indeed Emily's father's company. In fact, both men had been informed in advance that something was off with Emily, and both were concerned about her. Steve's loud voice could be heard in the hallway, so the two men had been listening to our conversation from outside the break room. Steve was clearly flustered by this unexpected turn of events. You mentioned your daughter, Mr. Smith. Yes, Emily is my daughter. Dad, perhaps seeing her real father broke the tension for Emily. Emily went over to her father and broke down in tears. It was evident from this reaction just how much stress Emily had been under. Both CEOs gave Steve a contemptuous look. Steve, we'll be having a thorough discussion about your actions towards her. We'll inform you of any disciplinary measures afterward. Brace yourself. That's an exaggeration. I was just guiding Emily for her own good. Steve claimed that, but upon speaking with Emily, it became clear about his day-to-day conduct. According to Emily, Steve, who was married, had taken a liking to her beauty and had invited her out privately. Of course, Emily declined his advances. Upon being rejected, Steve began harassing Emily on a daily basis out of spite. Not wanting to cause any concern, Emily hadn't spoken to anyone about it. However, upon talking to other female employees, it was discovered that there were other victims of Steve. He had been approaching several female employees he took a fancy to. There were even women who were pressured into spending the night with him in exchange for favorable job evaluations. This behavior was deemed problematic, and Steve was demoted from his position. He was transferred to a branch office in a remote location. I never imagined I'd get demoted at 50. My wife's left me, my kids have given up on me, and everything looks so bleak. After his demotion and a major pay cut, the director felt as though he had lost everything all at once. Considering he was a family man but still made advances to female coworkers, it's no wonder his family turned their backs on him. It's a classic case of getting what you deserve. It's truly a good thing that his misconduct came to light now, preventing further victims like Emily from being hurt. Emily, if you ever have any problems, remember you don't have to bear them all by yourself. After all, I'm a manager here, so feel free to discuss anything with me. As I said that, Emily looked genuinely remorseful. I'm sorry, you're right. If I had spoken up sooner, we could have addressed the director's behavior much earlier. While the conscientious Emily felt that way, I wanted to convey more than just that. Of course, it was essential for us to be aware of the director's actions. However, what I truly wanted to express was my personal sentiment. I didn't want Emily to suffer alone. I want to be there for you, Emily, no matter how minor your concerns might be. You mean a lot to me, Emily. What? Hearing my words, Emily's cheeks turned a deep shade of red. It seemed she finally understood my feelings. Never in my wildest dreams did I think I'd have another chance to express my feelings to a woman. I'm not afraid of getting hurt anymore. A determination to convey my feelings to Emily grew within me. I love you, Emily. I truly want to be by your side forever. The moment I said that, Emily looked at me. her face emotionless but with tears glistening in her eyes. In response, I playfully turned up the corners of my lips, like I always do. And as always, she flashed her warm smile back at me. It was even brighter than usual, a smile I was sure I'd never forget. She looked so content and happy in that moment. Though communication has always been a challenge for us, in that instant, I felt we truly connected. Maybe words aren't always necessary for true love,